Hey friends, it's Tracy from Tea Time with Tracy and Violet. It is 11 o'clock at night. I'm in my kitchen and I wanted to talk about a book with you tonight. But I am making a cup of tea. I think she's been out with you. I just grabbed one of my girls. Kind of fallish colors. Today is the fall equinox. Feel the energy, guys. Feel it. It's buzzing all around. Anyways, there's gold up around her top, gold down around her bottom. There's gold down this side, her back, but not on the other side. And on her back, she has a big old bow on the back. Not a bow, but you know. Yeah. And then this is her pedestal, her skirt. I'm having some lime and ginger tea. I just made a couple other videos, but I thought my tea's not done, so let me talk about another book. I'll make another video. Why not? Then I'll go to bed. Oh, because I do have to get the children up and out the door tomorrow morning. I love this tea. It's Senses tea. One of my friends sent it to me. It's delicious. Anyways, the book I wanted to talk to you about, I read this last month, Those Across the River by Christopher Beuhlman, author of Suicide Motor Club. Never read it. I'll just read the back of it for you. Haunted by the memories of the Great War, failed academic Frank Nichols and his wife have arrived in a sleepy Georgia town in Withboro, where Frank hopes to write a history of his family's old estate, the Savoyard plantation, and the horrors that occurred there. At first, their new life seems to be everything they wanted, but under the facade of summer socials, the small town charm, there is an unspoken dread that the town folks have lived with for generations, a presence that demands sacrifice. It comes from the shadowy woods across the river, where the ruins of the plantation still stand, where a long smoldering debt of blood has never been forgotten, where it has been waiting for Frank Nichols. Yes. I got this because I seen a couple people say it was an amazing book. Scary book. I didn't find this scary. I'm not saying it's a bad book. This book starts off, like I said, Frank and his wife, I can't even remember. Just say her name. I can't remember what her name is. Anyways, this is back after the Great War, or after World War I. That was the Great War, I believe. Anyways, he had been a soldier in that war. So he's haunted by the past things he's had to live through, the past things that he had to do, you know, the horrible things of war. Yeah, horrible. But Frank is a university professor or a teacher or something like that. And no, let me think. I might be getting that wrong. She might be... No, he is. That's right. I've read so many books, my mind's getting twisted. He is, but he's kind of disgraced in a sense. It boils down to how this couple came to be, if you know what I'm saying. So he's kind of on the search for a job, because he's kind of been blacklisted in the cities and things like that. They came from kind of when he was working in where she was. Like, they lived a pretty comfortable life, but sacrifice, they got together and, you know, they're kind of ostracized for it. So he gets a letter from an aunt that he doesn't even know. She has passed away, or not, yeah, like her lawyer, solicitor, sends this letter to Peter to express that she wished she could have got a chance to know him and that she loved him, but is telling him never go to this town, which I'm thinking he never would have known about it if you hadn't said anything about it, but she was warning him to stay away from this place, the place where she owned the house. But since they were in kind of in dire straits, they decided to go to this little sleepy village and make a life for themselves. They get there, the house is a nice house where they live. It's very rural, and theirs is one of the nicest houses in the area. But like reading it, this is way back, you know, no electricity, and you know, they just the olden times. And yeah, they didn't have electricity there. No. They seem really happy at first. It goes along. The thing that bothered me with this book, I thought this was going to be like a horror book, and it is, but for 90% of the book, I don't find it horror at all. It's horror in its own sense because it goes back to his memories of when he was a soldier and the things he lived through, which I've learned a lot. Honestly, I felt like I was reading a history book. And it wasn't hard to read, but it was like, when is it going to get to the horror I thought it was going to be? And I'm not trying to swipe that aside to say that's not horror. It is. It's just not the horror that I thought this book was. If you can't tell, you see the big fangs there, kind of like a dog, but it's not a dog. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of book that I thought I was signing up for, like a werewolf book. I've never read a werewolf book, I don't think, and I was like, all right, I want to try on some werewolves for a change. Anyways, in this little town, the people seem very friendly. There's one festival that took his wife by surprise, and they kind of joked about it privately, but they would let loose a hog across the river and do a whole ceremony with it. And they had been doing it for generations, but it's been going on for so long, they thought it was just out of tradition, not for any reason. So then a great big debate goes up in the town. Should we keep doing this? Like, food's a shortage, you know, people are struggling. It's a perfectly good couple pairs of hogs going out in the woods to where that could feed a few families. So they had like a town hall meeting, and a whole bunch of different issues are brought up in regards to this. And after that, things change. So the history that he is going to this little town to write, his family were slave owners, and his ancestors were monsters. And he is a writer, and he wants to go write the atrocities. And people are like, why are you going to write this? You shouldn't write this. Like, why would you want to write this? And he counters with, well, it's history. I want to do this. I don't agree with it, but it's a story that should be told. The plantation is across the river. So he goes to set out. Nobody would take him. Some people would take him just so far, and then they'd turn around and say, you're on your own. Nobody ever said why. And things go on from there. So I don't want to divulge, because this might be right up your alley. it gets more horror when I think of horror for me at the very end. At the very end. The people are all nice in this story, I find. I do have to say, there is racial things in this, like people calling the N-word a few times. And it was at a time in our human history where that was common speak, which is not acceptable at all. But just a heads up about that, if you're sensitive to that. I'm sensitive to it, but I'm still going to read the book, but I'm just like, yeah, God, it's, you know, just a heads up. It's not throughout the whole book, but there are some remarks like that in here. And yeah, the only thing that disappointed me was you didn't see the monsters until the very end. You really didn't see the monsters until the very end. And it doesn't look like a long book, but it's a fairly long book for what I was waiting for. 347 pages. And really, just the last chapter, maybe 2, kind of blew the lid off. And then you're like, oh, okay, there they are. There they are. There they are. So it just seemed more of a slow burn. I was disappointed because a couple of the people that I watched on YouTube really blew this up as a like fantastic horror. You're gonna speed right through it. It's fast paced. It's, you know, I didn't find it fast paced. I enjoyed it in the sense I would have enjoyed it more if I'd have known what I was getting into. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So there's a lot of history stuff in here. It was neat to walk in their shoes back in time, you know, how they'd have to walk up to the market, walk, you know, everybody walk. They actually did have a car. Well, maybe there was electricity. I don't think there was any at that house. I'm just trying to think. They did have a car. They rarely drove it because gas was expensive and nobody drove cars around there. So it would be like, yeah, not necessary. So they did have a car, but most people did not. Like, it was just a small little community, and it was a good walk through, getting to know a few of the townsfolks. One in particular sticks out to me. I can't remember his name. If you read it, you'll know who I'm talking about. But anyways, across the river, it is a horror story. It's not a scary story in the sense of if you're expecting a monster story. There are monsters in this, but not throughout the whole book. It took a long time for it to even get to that realization. Like, a long time. So that was the disappointing part for me. So people that have read this and love this, I'm not knocking it. I'm not. It's just, it was not what I expected. And I would recommend it if you don't mind really super slow burns for horror. Ones that take a long time to, well, that's slow burn, to really let you in on what it is. Didn't know, just going across the river and going so far and having to turn around before it's dark so they don't get lost. Do that a couple times. Okay, well, nothing's happened, so what's going on? Until almost the end. So, of course, that's a book. Like, the ending does kind of climax in most books, but I like books that give you kind of adrenaline more than just at the end of the book. So that was my issue with this book. Anyways, that's all I want to say about it, because I don't want to bash it down, but not my favorite book that I read this month. Yeah, I don't know how many books I read. Well, I read this in August, but I didn't read it so long ago that I forgot it. I remember, I remember what happens. I can't remember their names, but I remember what happened. And I just remembered the disappointment that I felt, in the sense I didn't mind the ending. It was good for a horror ending, but it wasn't enough to make up for the lack of horror the rest of the story for me. But anyways, across the river, those across the river. That's all I'll say about this one. So anyways, I'll say peace, love, and happiness today and every single day. Please like, share, and subscribe if you so choose, but if not, that's okay too. I still love ya. I still want all the happiness in the world for each and every one of you out there. I certainly do. I really, really honest and truly do. Yes, I do. So I'm gonna hit the sack, Jack, and yeah, happy equinox, friends. So with that, I'm gonna say have a good night or have a good morning, and I might see you tomorrow. Bye. Bloop.